Whether thou art a ghost that hath come from the earth, or a phantom of night that hath no home, or one that lieth dead in the desert, or a ghost unburied, or a demon, or a ghoul, whatever thou be until thou art removed, thou shalt find here no water to drink. Thou shalt not stretch forth thy hand to our own. Into our house enter thou not. Through our fence break through thou not. We are protected, though we may be frightened. Our life you may not steal, though we may be scared to death.
Welcome to Scared to Death, Creeps, Peepers, Roberts, and Annabelles. I'm Dan.
Are you Dan?
I am. I'm still Dan.
You're not.
Christopher Walken. I'm Dan. You're Lynze.
Oh, I love how much you guys loved the Christopher Walken. The comments, the emails, it has been cracking me up so much.
It's so silly.
Oh, it's so great. So great. I got to fluff your hair up and get a video.
Oh, yeah. Let's do that. Let's try and remember that tonight.
Okay.
Okay. So no announcements. We're just going to go right into it.
That's
which is
it.
Fun.
Yeah, that's true, Chris.
Yeah. Chris. What fan-submitted horror do you have for us this week?
Well, what I have for you is my first tale is a very creepy Ouija board tale.
Okay. We haven't had one of those in a little bit.
Yeah. And I definitely feel like something is trying to get out.
Okay.
Via the Ouija board. Then I have a classic ghost tale. Nice and easy.
Yeah.
Not too bad, not too scary, but just enough. And then my third story, really strange and creepy, a haunted or possibly possessed stuffy.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I like these little stories too. It makes me want to do another episode myself where I have some little ones. They're fun. It's a fun change of pace.
Yeah. I know we talked about maybe at some point just doing like an entire episode of just me telling you a lot of fan stories, just to kind of switch it up.
Yeah.
Yes. Tell me more.
My first story today is the retelling of the moments that lead to one young woman becoming a firm believer in the paranormal.
Okay.
She sees something, she experiences something that she just cannot deny. For my second story, we'll explore the lore behind a curse associated with New Hampshire and Maine's Sako River. Are people still drowning in this river thanks to a curse placed over 3 centuries ago now?
Probably.
You ready to put on your sock show?
Oh, yeah. I'm ready for the sock show. As we're moving through this month of love, I've got these cute kissing gnomes. Be mine.
Cute. And we hope, we know this episode comes out after Valentine's. We hope you had a good Valentine's Day.
Yeah. When you guys hear this episode, this comes out on the 18th, we'll be in the middle of our first ever adult vacation.
I hope it's so fun.
That is not for work and does not involve our kids.
Oh, my gosh.
Dude, that's incredible.
Excited.
13 years together, our first vacation.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's fucking go.
And here we go. One of my favorite questions to ask believers of the paranormal is, what made them believe? For some of us, we've just always felt deep in our bones that the other world, the spirit world, is real, that it's all around us, that it's highly unlikely, that literally everyone who has ever claimed to have had a paranormal experience, they're all lying. They all have an overactive imagination, or they just saw some trick of the light. For others, there was an exact moment in time where a flip within them switched, a moment where they felt something or saw something that was so strange and inexplicable that all at once the boundaries that they had long believed to confine reality dissolved into nothingness. And suddenly they were forced to confront the probability that the dead do return, or that demons or angels or some other type of entity or all of the above, malevolent, helpful, benign, or otherwise, were real. For one Reddit user, the following was the moment that turned them from a hardcore skeptic and ghost denier into a ardent believer. Time now for the tale of There's a Little Boy Up There. I got my first job when I was 17 years old. It wasn't a great job, but it required minimal effort and 0 skills. Plus it paid okay, and that was enough for me at that age. The gig was at this place called Joe's Gym. It was a gymnasium / kids play place, but really it felt more like a knockoff Chuck E. Cheese. Joe's Gym was located off the highway just outside my Middle America hometown in a shoddy-looking warehouse-type building. Inside, there were 2 main sections, the gym and the bounce room. Inside the main gym, we had all the typical stuff you need to keep snotty little kids entertained for a couple of hours, like balance beams, monkey bars, saucer swings, a foam ball pit, a slide, a climbing wall, climbing ropes, trampolines, plastic tunnels, you name it. Then in the other room, which we were forced to refer to as the bounce bungalow, which sounds more like the name of a private room in a strip club than something for kids, there was this inflatable obstacle course with way too much duct tape slapped onto it to possibly be safe. But no one ever complained back in the 90s. Officially, my job title at Joe's was 5 and under gymnastics coach. However, it's pretty hard to teach real gymnastics to most kids that age, so really my job was to play games with the little ones every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, chasing them around the gym and occasionally making them walk on the balance beam, do front rolls and back bends on the foam mats and things like that. I actually really enjoyed working with the kids. They were snotty, yes, but they were adorable too, and I was good at it. I was a fun babysitter, and I kept them safe and entertained. My encounter with the paranormal happened in late October or early November of 1996. I can't remember the exact date, but I remember most of everything else about the day. It was a Saturday. My first class started at 11, so I got to work around 10:30. There were a few parents I didn't recognize loitering outside the entrance in the frigid cold, smoking cigarettes, which meant that there must be a birthday party happening in the bounce bungalow. I shuffled inside, stomped the snow off my boots, and headed to the employee break room in the back. The narrow hallway had piss-yellow walls and this nauseatingly putrid confetti-patterned carpet. Along the way, I stuck my head in the security room to say hi to Hammy. Yep, his name was actually Hammy. Due to a few decades of hard manual labor, binge drinking Bud Lights, and based on how his skin looked, refusing to ever wear sunscreen, Hammy looked like he was in his 60s, but really he was only in his 40s, maybe only 43. He might still be the nicest person I've ever met. He was always smiling, always cracking jokes, and when he laughed, his gigantic beer belly shook like crazy. He had these bright red cheeks and a long gray wispy beard. He kind of reminded me of Santa Claus, if Santa Claus chain smoked and rode a Harley. Anyway, I handed Hammy a can of Coke, which I did every Saturday and Sunday morning, and told him I'd stop by to chat after my class ended. After stuffing my purse, puffy jacket, and muddy boots into my locker, I headed into the gym. When I walked in, I was immediately struck with a cold gust of wind. Irritated, I stood under the nearest ceiling vent to see if some moron had turned on the air conditioning, even though it was below zero out. I think it was like -4 or 5. The air conditioner was off, so I figured the breeze must have somehow snuck in through an open door window somewhere, even though there were no doors or windows leading to the outside in the gym, and I started preparing for class. That day, there were only 5 kids from the program signed up. I still remember their names: Jeremy, Talia, Miranda, Kevin, and some other kid. I remember almost all their names, I guess. They were between 3 and 4 years old. After dropping the little ones off, their little ones, some of the parents stayed and watched class from a viewing corner of the gym, and some split to go get a coffee or run to the drugstore or just whatever. I remember specifically that that day, Kevin's mom was the only parent that stayed. And I remember that because Kevin's mom was basically the only parent that I liked. She was a single mom with a great sense of humor, and she drove a kick-ass car. Plus, she was always super nice to me. Even gave me a Christmas gift one year. I think her name was Sherry. Her kid, Kevin, was 4 and a real stinker, but I loved him for it. He never had meltdowns when I made the group try some new game or gymnastics technique like some of the other kids did, and he never hit or bit anyone like a lot of the other kids did. He was just a super independent, silly, outgoing, class clown in the making type of kid. Plus, he had a lisp, and come on, little kids with lisps are so cute. My other favorite kid in class was Talia, and she was the exact opposite. She was 3, teensy tiny, super petite, and quieter than a mouse. She would spend every class glued to my side, either holding my hand or standing directly behind my legs. You know how kids do. I remember her favorite part of class was when I took out the bubble machine and let the kids run around. That was the only time she would go farther away than maybe 10 feet from me. Anyway, that's all the background you need to understand what happened next. It was about midway through class. I had the kiddos lined up to take turns walking across our tallest balance beam without holding my hand. Kevin, per usual, was the first in line. "Miss Ella," he said while I helped him onto the beam. "Yeah, buddy." "Can I go on the swing after this?" he asked, gesturing to the set of tire swings directly next to us. "If there's time, buddy." "Okay." Without warning, Kevin let go of my hand and began slowly but confidently marching across the beam. He stared at his feet as he went, face all scrunched up with such intense concentration, it was hard not to laugh at him. "Good job, Kevin," I heard his mom yell from the corner of the gym. He didn't seem to hear her. He was too laser-focused on the task at hand. But then the little boy came to an abrupt halt. It was like he was frozen there, one foot in front of the other, his stubby little arms stretched out wide on either side. "It's okay, Kevin. You're almost there," I encouraged him. "Don't be scared. You can do it, buddy." In that very moment, for reasons I cannot explain, I felt something similar to disgust well up in my stomach. I'm not sure how to describe it. It came out of nowhere. And it wasn't like I was disgusted with Kevin. There was something else that was making my skin tighten, my inside squirm. I don't know what it was. It was weird. "Kevin, buddy, you got this," I said. Suddenly, Kevin tilted his head towards the ceiling, directly above us, and I saw that his lip was quivering. I followed his gaze to see what he was looking at. There was nothing up there but the industrial gray rafters and a maze of metallic air ducts. I squinted harder, trying to figure out what he'd seen, what had scared him, and that was when I heard him scream. To this day, I have never heard another kid scream like that. I've never heard anyone else scream like that. The sound was, I don't know, shrill, blood-curdling. It was a sound of pure, scared down deep into your bones terror. I was so distracted looking at the ceiling that I didn't notice that Kevin was losing his footing. By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. He was already on the ground. He was just rolling on the ground, crying for his mom, cradling a crooked wrist in his hand. In an instant, Sherry was kneeling over him, asking him what hurt. My wrist, he wailed. Should I call 911? I asked breathlessly. I felt tears burning behind my eyes. I also felt like someone was watching me from the ceiling. No, Sherry said frantically, picking her son up off the foam mat. I'm going to take him to the emergency room. I'll let you know if it's broken. I could tell she was irritated with me, but also that she felt something too. That she wanted to get out of that area as fast as she could, and not just because of her son. I think I said something like, I'm so sorry. I didn't see him fall. I should have caught him. But I don't really remember. Everything happened so fast. As she walked away, I heard Kevin whimper something to her between sobs. They're the little boy up there. They're the little boy up there. I turned to keep an eye on the other kids. One of them was crying. I don't remember which one, and I don't remember what I did next, but I assume I just gathered them all up and told them that Kevin was going to be A-okay, then turned on the bubble machine for the rest of class. All I could think about was Kevin's scream and how I felt while he stared at that spot on the ceiling. And selfishly, I for sure wondered if I was going to get fired or not. When the end of class finally came, the kids' parents were waiting for them in the lobby. It was crowded because the birthday party next door had just ended at the same time. I think I said something to them about how there had been an accident in class that day, and that the child who had gotten hurt was at the ER right now, but again, I don't exactly remember. What I do remember, however, and what I will never forget, was what little Talia said to me when she gave me a hug goodbye. Miss Sarah? She squeaked in her tiny voice, and I bent down so I could be at eye level with her. Yeah, Talia? I said, zipping up her puffy pink winter coat. Did you see him too? Did I see Kevin fall? No, honey, I didn't. Talia interrupted me, shaking her head so seriously from side to side. No, not Kevin. The other little boy. Confused, I met her gaze. She looked completely earnest, waiting for me to respond, but for some reason, I was afraid to. What little boy, sweetie? I finally asked. The little boy in the ceiling. I feel like I've been punched in the gut, like the wind had been knocked out of me. No, honey, I stammered. I didn't see him. I gave her one last quick hug before practically running to the employee room in the back. I sat on the bench by the lockers for a while, trying to calm down, amazed at how loud the sound of my heartbeat pounding in my ears was. Once I was sure it had been long enough for all the parents from that class to have taken their kids home, I gathered up my things, put on my boots and jacket, said a brief hello to my coworkers who had just finished working the kids' birthday party, a quick goodbye to Hammy, and I was gone. The next day I got to work at 10:30, same time as I always did. I had mostly shaken that eerie, panicky feeling that was the previous day's class had left me with, but I was still dreading walking back into that gym and seeing that same spot on the ceiling. When I stopped by Hammy's office to give him his Sunday Coke, he asked me what was wrong. I remember he said it was plastered all over my face. Something was clearly bothering me. I sighed and walked into the security room, which was more like a security closet, and sat down in the chair across from his. Then I told him everything, from the weird cold feeling I got when I walked into the gym Saturday morning to the mystifying thing Talia had asked me after class. So, pretty weird, right? I said with a forced chuckle once I finished regaling him with the tale. Just a lot of weird coincidences. I mean, kids say weird stuff all the time. Kids get hurt all the time. It just so happened that both of those things occurred on the same day. Hammy was silent for a while, which was unusual for him. Finally, in his gruff voice, he said, "Let me know you something," and gestured for me to look at the screen on the desk in front of him. "This here's footage from yesterday, about 4 p.m. Don't know if you know this, but Michelle, that gal that runs a gymnastics program for the middle schoolers, called in sick yesterday, so the 1 p.m. class was canceled. So no one was in the gym after you left at, 12:30-ish? Anyway, take a look. Hammy put in a VHS tape with some white label on the side, and a few seconds later the screen came to life with a view of the gym. Like he had said, the timestamp of the video read yesterday's date, 3:46 p.m. There was only one security camera in the gym, positioned right above the entrance, but it captured almost the entire space except for the ball pit and the parents' corner. Hammy pressed play, and we watched. After about a minute, maybe two, Hammy clicked pause and turned to me with wide eyes. "Did you see it?" he asked. "See what?" I replied. "Everything in the video was so still, you could have told me it was a photograph, and I would have believed you." "Okay, watch again." "There. Did you see it?" he asked again, pointing to the screen. "No, Hammy, I don't see anything. What's going on?" Although I did my best to sound calm, there was no disguising a little bit of panic in the way my voice was about to tremble. "Okay, here," he said, pointing at the center of the gym, where the balancing beam and the swings are. "Watch very closely." I leaned in closer and I watched, and I waited. I was just about to tell Hammy that nothing was happening when suddenly something did. One of the tire swings, the red one in the middle, began to sway, back and forth, each time reaching a slightly higher height. My hand involuntarily surged to cover my mouth, and I sucked in my breath. What? Why is it moving?" "Looks like someone's on it, don't it?" Hammy asked, his eyes fixed on the screen, "but nobody is." Maybe it's the wind?" I offered. "No, darling, if it was the wind, wouldn't all three of them swings be moving, and other stuff too? Besides, you and I both know there's no windows or doors in there. So where would the wind even come from?" I couldn't give him a good answer. All I could do was stare at the screen and the swing that somehow seemed to be moving all on its own. Then Hammy said, "You said that boy Kevin saw something in the rafters right above the balance beam, right? Well, whatever he saw, if he in fact did see something, would have also been right above those tire swings too, right?" I nodded. Hammy continued, "And you said the girl asked you if you saw, what was a little boy in the ceiling, right?" I nodded again. "Well," he said, leaning back in his chair and grinning a bit while he said, "Seems to me that little boy in the ceiling was waiting for his turn to play on the swing." And at that very moment, the swing in the video came to a sudden halt, like someone had grabbed it from behind. I shuddered. I couldn't believe what we were looking at. We watched that section of the tape a few more times. God, I wish I knew where it was today. I've often wondered if Hammy kept it. I don't know what happened to him. Ever since that day, I have believed, no, I have known, that the dead do not always leave this earth.
That's like a great confirmation story.
I know it's not like necessarily terrifying, but it did give me the chills in some moments.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of cute, too.
I like your little lisp.
Thoa,
Thoa.
can I go on the swing, Thoa?
Oh, it just takes me back to Baby Monroe.
Mm-hmm.
Can we please have beet mamies for dinner?
I want beet momies.
Monroe, where were you born? Spokane.
Yeah, I know. She had the cutest lisp.
And she just was an exceptionally cute kid.
She was.
Monroe. Anyways.
She still is, but little kid.
Little
when you could
Monroe.
just pick her up and tickle her.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
You know, she was in her messy bun phase and she wanted to
Uh-huh.
smooch me so much.
Uh-huh.
Oh, God. Okay. No, I think first of all, I do think it's creepy. You know, it's creepy. Kids do say creepy ass shit.
Yes.
They really do.
Yeah.
Intentionally or otherwise.
Yep.
Kids are so creepy and weird. So there's that. And I worked like as an assistant teacher in a nursery school. So I heard some creepy shit.
Yeah.
They're so cute and they're exactly that. They're like snotty and like dirty and gross and also so yummy. So I was able to picture this whole situation and, you know, if there wasn't video footage, it would be a throwaway story.
Yeah.
It wouldn't matter. It would be like, okay, whatever, kids saying weird shit. That footage makes it so dead ass creepy. And I was picturing like the old, like when it was like VHS, everything was like VHS. Yeah. And then just zzz, you know, like rewind it and then click and then pause and click, you know, to pause it again when you get to the spot you want. Yeah. And how it's like, I mean, there's a reason they go back to that era a lot in horror movies.
because the resolution was so much worse than it is now. I could see how she would miss it a few times.
Yeah, so grainy.
Yep, it's grainy.
There's just one camera for this whole gym.
Yeah, if it's a huge wide shot, it would just be this little tiny swing in the distance, this little pixelated thing. You'd be like, oh shit, that is moving and there's no one around.
Yeah, but talk about a great confirmation story in that it didn't happen to you.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing actually, you weren't touched. There was no.
You just felt a little cold for a second, felt a little off.
Kevin may have broken his wrist, but even that is not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
It's at your place of employment, so it's not at your house.
Yeah.
You don't have to be worried about that. Doesn't seem malevolent.
Right. Just a little kid waiting for his turn.
That's a pretty great confirmation story. I will take it.
Yeah. No pics attached to that story, but the setting reminded me a bit of the old Savage Land pizza.
Is it called Savage Land?
Yep, I looked it up.
Because I know we were talking about it.
It was Savage Land Pizza in the Spokane Valley. It burnt down, years ago now. But we went there a few times, and it was just like, not like a knockoff Chuck E. Cheese, but kind of. There was no animatronics, but they had pizza, and I remember it being really good pizza.
Of course you did.
I mean, cheap, good pizza. Like good trashy.
Listen, I don't care about pizza, so
I know
you can talk about pizza, but I'm like, whatever.
I thought it was delicious, and but then they had this big area of like all the habit trails, like for kids' size, like the tunnels where you can crawl through.
What did you call it?
Habit trails, like a gerbil.
Haba?
I think it's called habit trails.
Huh?
When you like set up like a hamster or a gerbil's little cage, and you put all these little tunnels so they can like.
Yeah.
I think that's what they were called. Now I'm second guessing myself.
I've never heard that term before.
I might have just made it up, but that's what in my head they're supposed to be called.
I like it.
And so they have like all these like, plastic tunnels, and then this area. God, I remember playing with Kyler in this one area all the time. It was so fun. Oh, those days are so fun.
Mm-hmm.
Where they had like these big foam rectangular pads, and a rope would connect that pad to the ceiling all in this one room inside this thing. So you had to go through a tunnel to get to this little room. And then if you pushed it, they're not attached to the bottom of the mat, so they swing.
It's like a swinging mat, yeah.
And so we would go in there and try and blast each other with these mats.
Cute.
Oh, Kyler loved those things. I mean, he still loves to hike.
Yep.
And when he was little.
And he goes rock climbing all the time.
Yep, he loved to crawl and climb on stuff.
I wasn't thinking of a like Chuck E. Cheese place. I was thinking more of my gym. My gym is a little kid's gym.
Oh.
And they're scattered all over SoCal. I don't know if they ever franchised out of there. But it sounded more like that to me, where it has the balance beams and the things, but like more gymnastic-y.
What was that place called in Century City Mall? That was a kids climbing area. It was like a
It didn't have a name. It was just their little like play area.
Oh, okay.
I know what you're talking about though.
Yeah.
Did you bring up pictures of Savage Land?
I couldn't find Savage Land pictures other than like just like from the exterior, but I found these others that were similar just for anybody who's not been to a place like that.
That looks like a giant Lego.
Oh yeah, it's like a Lego theme, but it's all inflatable. Just like bouncy stuff for kids to climb on.
Yep.
I mean, this sounds like it had more like balance beams, but they had like the ball pits you referenced too.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be like this kind of stuff with a big mat area where you also have some more traditional gymnastics, setups. Equipment, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, that's it.
That is all.
That is all.
That is all.
Anything else you want to talk about with that story?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll move it along.
Oh, wait, there was something. At the beginning, you said it was really funny. It made me laugh so hard.
Yeah.
You were trying to say, you said my flip switched.
Instead of my switch, flip to switch?
I know. It was like the way you said it. I was like, wait, do you mean it switched my flip? My flipped switch? It threw me off for so long. I was thinking about it. And now I'm like, I'm going to have to go back and listen to the audio because it was cracking me up. Because I was like, I don't think that's what he meant to say. I don't know how it was written in your script, like if it got written.
Yeah, or I might have just like, it is an interesting thing that I've noticed where
flipped my switch flipped. I got my switch flipped. It was I don't know. It sounded inverted, but then I was like, wait, is it wrong?
I will sometimes shift phrases because I'm used to like reading my notes in Timesuck, and it's like making grammatical corrections just on the fly.
Yeah.
But then sometimes the notes will be correct, but my brain will just flip some words around.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay. Now you ready to move forward?
I am.
All right. The Sako River. The Sako River, which travels from northeastern New Hampshire into southwestern Maine, is reportedly plagued by a curse, giving it the ominous nickname of the River of Death. For many years, this important river served as the primary method of transportation and water power for many living near it. It led to the development of Maine towns like Biddeford, Sako, Freiburg, and Hiram. The Saco River is approximately 136 miles long, originating in New Hampshire's White Mountains, flowing across the state and into Maine, and then entering the Atlantic at Biddeford Pool in Saco Bay, near the twin cities of Biddeford and Sako. Biddeford Pool is the site of the state's first recorded permanent settlement, originally called Winter Harbor, an important location in this story. The Saco River is, for most of its run, fairly calm river, slow river, making it a popular river for recreation, canoeing, sport fishing, that sort of thing. An estimated 3,000 to 7,000 people visit the river every weekend in the summer to enjoy it, and it is mostly a safe river. However, some areas of it have deceptively strong undertows and rough rapids. And despite the overwhelming majority of people who interact with the river in some way having nothing but a positive experience, drownings in the Saco River are unfortunately allegedly pretty common, and many people still attribute some of these drownings to a curse that is now over 3 centuries old. Time now for the tale of the curse of the River of Death. Sako was once a territory of the Abenaki tribe, an Algonquin-speaking tribe who were part of the Wabanaki Confederacy, which was a confederation of 4 principal eastern Algonquian nations. The Sako people were a subset of the Abenaki Wabanaki nation, and they lived near the mouth of the river. In 1630, the Plymouth Company of London granted Thomas Lewis and Richard Bonathan a charter to establish a town where the Sako lived, in the Saco area. And the town of Winter Harbor was settled in 1631. And then 45 years later, or I guess 44 years later, in 1675, reportedly near Leamington, Maine, a few cold-hearted English settlers are said to have committed a brutally violent act against an indigenous woman and her child. In the late 17th century, the Sako people were led by a sachem, or chief, named Squando. And Squando had a wife named Awagamiska and an infant son named Menawi. In 1675, Awagamiska was pregnant with the couple's second child. Her husband, Squando, was a strong and respected leader, a brave warrior, and a man known for having great spiritual powers. And he would curse the men who harmed his family. Initially, English settlers in the area had a peaceful relationship with the Sako people. Squando, for example, rescued an English girl who had been kidnapped in a raid and returned her to her family as a gesture of peace. The story of how this peace was shattered has several versions. In one version, Squando and his wife, Awagamiska, were traveling along the Saco River with their son when they came upon an unruly group of English sailors. These Englishmen had been drinking, they were out looking for trouble, and when they saw the couple's baby, they decided to test the truth of an ignorant rumor that indigenous babies were born with the instinct to swim. They got into an altercation with the family, and during the scuffle, they snatched the baby out of his mother, Awagamiska's arms, and as they held the child's father back, they threw baby Menawi into the river. Awagamiska was let go in time to save her baby boy from drowning, but he tragically, after spending too much time in the cold water, died a short time later. In another version of this story, an older daughter of Squando, a girl he had fathered with another woman, was kidnapped by 3 white settlers and taken away in a canoe. She then fell out of the canoe along a rough section of the river called Leamington Rips and drowned and died. In a third version of the tale, Awagamiska was rowing a canoe with her baby boy near Factory Island, formerly called Indian Island. The Sako people used to spend their summers on Factory Island, and an English ship was anchored nearby, close to the mouth of the river. 3 sailors decided to go out in a rowboat to explore the island, and they spotted Awagamiska in her canoe. One of the settlers, again, said that they had heard indigenous babies were born with the instinct to swim, and the settlers rowed up beside Awagamiska, tipped her canoe over, caused her baby to fall into the water. Awagamiska fought against the Englishmen and was able to save her baby from drowning, but then he became sick with a fever and died a few days later. And in yet one last version of the story, the most common version, both Awagamiska and her baby drowned because of this incident. Regardless of which version is true, this event is said to have marked the end of peaceful relations between the Sakois and the white settlers. Squando mourned his son for 3 days, and at the end of the 3rd day, vowed to have his revenge. According to legend, he stood on the banks of the river and cursed it, so that 3 white men would die every year until they left the area. And then to shed more English blood, Squando persuaded the Androscoggin tribe to attack Winter Harbor, which was the beginning of King Philip's War. King Philip's War was also called the First Indian War, the Great Narragansett War, or Metacom's Rebellion. It lasted from 1675 to 1676. The war is named after the Wampanoag chief Metacom, who later took on the English name of Philip, and was known locally by many settlers as King Philip. After the Pequot War of 1636 and 1637, which began when Allied Puritans and Mohicans attacked a Pequot village in Connecticut and killed around 500 people, the colonies of Plymouth, Massachusetts Bay, Connecticut, and New Haven formed the New England Confederation. And this confederation fought the Wampanoag, Nipmuc, Pocumtuck, and Narragansett people during King Philip's War. The Mohegan and Mohawk tribes sided with the English. Metacom was the second son of Wampanoag chief Massasoit, and Massasoit had previously negotiated a peace treaty with the colonists at Plymouth Plantation, but then the colonists continued moving on to indigenous land. Metacom came to power when his older brother, Wamsutta, later named Alexander, was arrested on suspicion of plotting war and was murdered during questioning by the English. In January of 1675, John Sassaman, a quote Christian Indian, warned Plymouth that Metacom was going to attack. They ignored his warning and then found Sassaman's body. He had been murdered. 3 Wampanoag men were later found guilty of the murder and hanged June 8, 1675. Metacom was furious. This only increased tension between the Wampanoag people and the colonists. In June, the Wampanoag raided the Swansea colony of Massachusetts, killing several colonists and destroying a lot of property. The English then destroyed Metacom's village on Mount Hope, Rhode Island. Algonquin warriors joined the Wampanoag in the summer of 1675 and continued to attack settlements. And then the Confederation officially declared war on September 9, 1675. Indigenous people in the Sako area attacked the Winter Harbor settlement during King Philip's War. Settlers had to move to the mouth of Sako. The homes and mills they left behind were burned. Finally, a treaty was signed September 6 and November 6, 1676. More terms were decided 2 years later in 1678, and the settlers were now allowed to return to their homes, but had to annually forfeit a peck of corn, which was 8 dry quarts, to acknowledge they were on indigenous land. Some assigned much of the spilled English blood from all these battles to Squando's curse. And now that we've established a historical background of the curse, can we ask the question, is it true? Ted Baker, a historian and archaeologist at the York Institute Museum in Saco, aka the Sako Museum, reports that the curse was never mentioned in print until 1880. Baker told a journalist from Yankee magazine that historical accounts describe an incident on the river that led to a baby's death that year. He said, "I think the legend of the curse might have sprung up, as some other legends did, during what we call the colonial revival era, when it was popular to romanticize events that took place in the colonial period. While there's plenty of skepticism about the curse, many still believe in it, especially amongst the older generations. Up until 1947, some people reportedly refused to go near the river until they were certain that 3 white men had already drowned that year, to ensure they would be safe from the curse. Many mothers also would not allow their children to go swimming in the river until they knew, again, that 3 white men would drown that calendar year. Historian Hubert Clemens told Yankee magazine that he had known about the curse since he was a little boy and had a partial list of drownings near the Hiram area dating back to 1873. And while it is hard to find accurate statistics on drownings along the entirety of the Saco River because it passes through so many different towns, several counties, 2 states, he claimed that it seemed to him that at least 3 white males had in fact drowned in the river each and every year. Ruth Chaplin, librarian, resident of Steep Falls, Maine, and reporter for the Portland Press-Herald, recalled writing about numerous drownings during her 20 years with the Press-Herald. She said the curse has been carried out many, many, many years in drownings up and down the length of the Saco. A bunch of reader comments beneath the 1989 Press-Herald article on the curse, which was posted online in 2021, was full of stories of reported drownings in the Saco River, as well as numerous drowning tragedies involving young children. In February of 2022, it was announced that the Biddeford Culture and Heritage Center would erect a bronze statue of Squando and his family to acknowledge the pain inflicted on indigenous people in the area by European colonists. President Diane Sear is quoted by MainePhilanthropy.org as saying, Our hope is that the statue will speak to mariners. Oh my gosh, Mainers. I've never heard that before. Our hope is that the statue, 3rd time's a charm, will speak to Mainers and other New Englanders about the extent of the brutality that indigenous people have endured. It will stand alone in Maine as the only visual reminder to date of these horrific incidents. Whether or not this curse is real is still up for debate. It probably always will be, but the river's reputation still causes fear and uncertainty amongst some locals and visitors. Are the high number of drowning incidents due to the fact that the river is just large, has a lot of visitors, or is the curse of the River of Death more than just some old, possibly made-up story?
What do you think? Would you go swimming in the river?
I mean, for me, all rivers are cursed. like I don't like to swim in the river. Just like growing up along the Salmon River as a kid.
Yeah.
Every summer you would hear about several drownings, fatal drownings, and that was just along like a 30-mile stretch of the river.
That's true.
Every single year, and so like after all that, I became so scared of like undertows and things. I would go to this one beachy area where you've been to, like Shorts Bar.
Oh yeah, Shorts, yeah.
And stuff. But even that, I'm like, I don't ever have to go back there ever again. Just because like, we took the kids to Skookumchuck, I know this last summer, which is closer to Whitebird. And it's fun if we stay within like 10 feet of shore. But if the kids joked about going farther, it's like, I would be like, nope, do not do that. You don't know what the current's like out there.
Yeah.
Like I remember Kyler joking about, he's like, I can swim across the river. I was like, do not fucking do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, because you don't know. It's like just one undertow and you're done. No life jacket. No way. With a life jacket, sure. Rafting down the river with like a good life jacket, that's fine.
You float the river in Missoula.
That river's like 4 feet deep.
So you only need like 2 inches of water to drown.
Well, yeah, if you get knocked unconscious.
I'm just saying.
But that one, if I can stand up and touch the button, then it's a different ball game.
Okay, well you didn't say that. Now I know. Now I know the parameters.
That's why I love that river. It's like it's so shallow, and not only is it shallow, it's shallow and it's not like a crazy current.
It goes so slow.
It's almost too slow.
Yeah.
In moments where I'm like, come on, let's it's like
pick up the pace a little.
Yeah. But I love that. I mean, that's perfect.
Remember the last time we floated that river and there was like a crazy storm that came through?
Oh my God.
We were all holding on to each other for dear life and freezing cold.
That was hilarious.
It really was.
It was one of those crazy, I guess, like an air pressure drop where it was, I don't know, 75 degrees. It wasn't
a
crazy.
Perfect day.
Yeah, it wasn't like crazy hot, but it wasn't cold. It was just warm enough. I remember because you do want a hotter day for the river because the water's going to be cooler.
Yep.
And I remember it was just warm enough where I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be good. And then we were going along and you could see it in the distance down the canyon. You could see like out of nowhere, it's no wind and then huge gusts of wind. I'm like, uh-oh. And you could see like sand blowing off the beach and stuff. And then sure enough, and then you saw these dark clouds roll in so fast. And it felt like the temperature dropped 30 degrees almost instantly.
There were 6 or 7 of us and we all just banded together.
We were just laughing at the absurdity of it.
Oh yeah, but also freezing.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. Do you have pictures for your story?
I have a few pictures. This first photo is an aerial shot of a big sandy beach along the Sako River near Fryeburg, Maine.
That looks like fun.
Yeah, this is the Fiddlehead Campground. Yeah, you can see people got their little floaties out in it.
Yeah.
Super chill. I'd be okay with that. And then this is, the water's moving a little quicker here. This is that Leamington Rips section of the water, and people will do kayaks and little canoes through that.
Yeah, it looks like a small little passage where you would practice doing rafting.
Yeah.
Like a good
kayak maneuvers and stuff.
Yep, kayaks too. Yep, practice your rolls and all that.
Actually, there was another photo I didn't include. There were a bunch of people on the rocks and stuff. All had their helmets on. They're all watching each other, and there were people in kayaks doing maneuvers.
Yep, that makes sense.
And then this is Biddeford Pool, where the Sako, or very near where the Sako River dumps out into the ocean. And this is somewhere near this spot that's now like a marina and a bunch of nice little houses is where Squando allegedly cursed the river.
Just so you guys know, they're nice big houses.
Oh yeah,
they're not little. They just look little in that photo.
Some of them are little, like this one right here. It's like I love these kind of things where that person probably bought in the 1910s or something.
Yeah.
And then they just kept that little house going.
I do really love East Coast houses.
I know, me too.
Like the classic East Coast style.
Is that like Cape Cod style or something?
I think that's one of the styles, yeah.
Yeah, it is so charming.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe someday, let's see where Monroe goes to college. We might be East Coasters.
Who knows what the future holds?
Never know.
We can record from anywhere.
I love it. Okay, well, Dan, are you ready to sit back, relax, and get spooked?
Ooh, yes.
Oh, buddy. Are you going pink Layla or brown Layla?
I'm going traditional again. Back to brown.
Okay. Back to classic Layla. All right, well, let's dive into this Ouija board story. Aloha, Queen of the Suck and the Suck Master himself.
Hello, I love Hawaii.
My name is Erin, and I'm originally from Oahu, which is where this true story takes place. Nice. It's something I will never forget. Picture this. Sicily, Valentine's Day, 2012. Just kidding. That's my favorite part of Golden Girls. Picture this. Sicily,
Oh, I forgot about her, Estelle or whatever saying that.
Oh,
that's right.
Oh, welcome back to planet Earth.
Yes.
Man. It was Valentine's Day, 2012. My closest high school friends and I were hanging out at Tanner's house, and we were bored. We didn't have a lot going on that day, just watching YouTube videos and whatnot, when Ryan got the great idea that we should all play with the Ouija board. I wasn't really into that kind of stuff growing up. I believed in the paranormal, but I never wanted to explore it. We went upstairs to the guest room where some of our friends had played with the board before. Everyone was sitting in a circle. 3 of the 6 of us had our fingers on the planchette. I chose to sit out. I had heard stories about Ouija boards and all the bad things that can follow after playing with one. I didn't want to run the risk of having something follow me home. Against my better judgment, I watched as they began to use the board. 5 minutes in, and nothing had happened. Except suddenly, the planchette started to move, and everyone freaked out. Ryan started asking questions, asked the board its name. The board spelled out Sophia. They asked how she died, and the board spelled love lost, followed by death. Okay, not that big of a deal. Then the planchette kept moving. A, R. Ryan interrupted and asked, Aaron? I lost it. I was beyond scared. I yelled at my friends to close the session, and thankfully they did. The rest of the day was pretty normal, and I began to wonder if my friends had just been playing a joke on me. I let it go. Around 8:30 that night, most of my friends went home. Ryan and Tanner and I were sitting out back, smoking cigarettes, when suddenly we simultaneously received a Facebook message from my girlfriend. It was a paragraph written in Hebrew. It was a story about a woman who had lost the love of her life. It was so weird. First of all, it was Valentine's Day. Second, we had the whole Ouija board experience. Third, why was my girlfriend sending us a story like that? And lastly, she doesn't know Hebrew. Sitting there puzzled, I called her. She answered in a sleepy, almost unrecognizable voice. I asked her why she had sent us all that message. She said she hadn't sent us anything. I was suspicious until she sent me a screenshot of her Facebook Messenger. It wasn't there. None of the messages were. Tanner started to speak suddenly in a very proper British accent. His posture changed. It was as if Tanner was no longer himself. Ryan and I began to panic. Tanner, or this new version of Tanner, told us we needed to burn the board, that as long as the board existed, she would haunt us. After issuing this warning, Tanner morphed back into our beloved friend. We explained what had happened, but he didn't remember any of it. We decided we had to burn the board, except someone had to go get the board, which was upstairs in the guest room. We drew straws, and Tanner drew the short straw. Ryan and I waited, scared shitless. It should have only taken like a minute or less to grab the board and run back downstairs. But too much time had passed. Ryan and I began calling out, Tanner! Tanner! No response. Another 5 minutes go by. We were scared and not wanting to go upstairs when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Tanner comes flying down the stairs, practically charging at us, board in hand, and a creepy-ass grin plastered across his face. We chased after him. Tanner lets out this creepy laugh. It had seemed that Tanner was running to my house just a few blocks away. We were doing our best to keep up with him, but we lost him. He was running so fast. And then we did what every dumb person in every horror movie does. We went back to look for him. We found Tanner with his legs crossed in the middle of the road, sitting under a street lamp. It was the most fucking terrifying thing I have ever seen in my life. We cautiously approached him while calling out his name. He just sat there, not moving, staring into space. A moment or two passed when Tanner gently said, "What happened? Why am I in the road? Where are my shoes?" And then he relayed to us the series of events that had unfolded. He told us the last thing he remembered was being in the guest room, grabbing the board, and then looking across the hall when he saw a little boy at the edge of the other bed swinging his legs. He said he froze in fear and then couldn't remember anything after that. By now, I just wanted to burn the board and end whatever madness this was. We walked to an empty lot in our neighborhood and blazed that board. Aaron.
Yikes.
So yeepy.
So yeepy. Just the whole concept of spirit boards, Ouija boards, whatever, just opening up a portal where you don't know what's going to come through it is insane.
I feel like life is so unpredictable as it is. We make, the best laid plans and we do all the things that we can to control our environments. And there are so many things that are just coming at us all the time. Why make it worse? Why risk more?
I mean, I do understand the appeal of Ouija boards, all that stuff of just like confirmation. If you're like,
I don't need it.
Yeah. But I understand for a lot of people, it's so funny where we've been doing this show for so long now, and I'm still like, I have moments where I'm like, maybe it would be fun to like play with the Ouija board.
1,000%.
But then like when it comes down to like pulling the trigger, I clearly do like there's part of me that's like, fucking Parker Brothers sells this stuff. It's a gimmick. It's people, someone's always pushing the planchette. It's all bullshit. But clearly I don't believe that to my core because I still will not pull the trigger and actually do it.
That's good.
And if someone were to invite me, I still wouldn't feel ready. They freak me out.
I definitely think it's a day by day thing. Like some days I'm like, I need no I just said, I was like, whatever. Like, why would you do that? And then catch me on another day and I'm like, well, I understand. We're human, our environments, our stress levels, how rested we are, what's going on in our lives, what's happening at work, what are we hungry? When we sit down to record these episodes, there are so many factors outside of these stories that definitely change how we approach each and every story. Totally. So today, I'm like, I don't fucking need it. Next week, I might be like, well, could be interesting. Yeah. It's not flip-flopping. It's
horror's interesting that way. It's so similar to comedy that way, for doing stand-up for so many years, where, people bring their days with them into the comedy club.
Yes, that is such a good way to say it.
Yeah, it's like, so, it doesn't matter how funny you are that night. There's going to be a few people. They have too much other shit on their mind and they can't get out of their head and they're just not really in the mood for it. They came with friends.
Yeah, they bought the tickets 3 months ago.
Yeah, they feel obligated to go, all those things. And it's the same with horror, where it's like there are some times when we record and it doesn't matter how scary the story is. I'm just not in that mode.
Right.
Where I'm not feeling like spooky or whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, I feel like I can handle any story. Mm-hmm. And there are other days where I'm like, I'm getting freaked out.
Yes.
Like we're going to finish the podcast, but there's a part of me that's like, I just want to quit. I just want to like get out of here. Or especially at home, working on the stories. I love to work on horror stories 90% of the time. 10% of the time, and definitely like if you're gone, and it's only been, we're almost always together, but there's been a few times when you're with girlfriends or something, and I'm home alone, and I
love being with you all the time.
I love being with you all the time too, and I'll start working on a story, and then I'll be like, oh my god, like I'm approaching 50 years old, and I'm still like, nope. Like, turn on all the fucking lights, put on a happy thing on the TV, and do not think about horror shit for the rest of the evening.
You know what I have, what I've learned about myself is that after a certain time of day, I just have to be done, even if you're home. It's usually around 7 o'clock in the summer because we have really bright, long summers. I can work on horror stories longer into the day. But it's like, it's about proximity to my bedtime. Yeah. And it's proximity to the sun going down. And I just start to feel, I'm like, you know what? I just don't need this energy right now. I don't want it in my house. And I know that like my story creation workload is very different than yours. And so sometimes you don't have a choice, but you have to.
I have to finish
it. Must finish. And I can move on to, business work and non-creative work where I'm like, fine, whatever, I'll deal with it tomorrow. But I feel bad for you in those moments.
Well, that getting later thing is true where it's like, I don't think I've ever worked on a horror story, specifically a horror story, past about 1 a.m. Because like once you get to that 2, 3, like the witching hour, like 3 a.m., I do feel weird. Now I'm feeling weird even talking about it.
I know. I'm like, okay.
Let's move on.
See what you did?
Yeah,
see what we mean about energy?
I know. There's like an energy shift in the room right when I was talking about 3 a.m. and now I'm like, now I feel freaked out.
Okay, I'm going to spray some cleansing spray really quick. I just don't feel like
It's so weird.
Okay.
What is that?
You're surrounded by white light. Do you want some?
No, I'm okay.
Okay. One of us is safe.
And I'm still trying to resist that kind of stuff. But I am freaked out. Okay.
Okay. Let's do a less creepy story.
Okay.
Hey, Dan and Lynze.
Hello.
I love that somebody called me Lynze because it just like makes you feel like you're my best friend.
Aw.
My story has 2 instances that separate each other roughly 15 years and thus require a little bit of setup. My dad started working for a heavy manufacturing company in the late 70s and then purchased that same company in 2007. I have been in and around this company since the day I was born. As a young boy, I used to go in on off hours with my dad while he worked on various machines. He would often tell me the building was haunted. There were always strange noises, as it is in very large, open, older buildings filled with pressurized lines and a constant stream of pigeons nesting in the rafters of the shipping bay. I often have an unshakable feeling of something watching me or being right behind me when I'm alone in the building. My dad enjoys the thrill of a good prank, and one time, after a tale of Indian burial grounds, he cut the power to the building while I was inside and locked the doors.
Oh.
I was 8.
Oh my God.
Thanks, Dad. When I was about 14 or 15, I used to sneak out of the house to play basketball with friends at a local school around midnight, most nights during the summer. The friend that went to this school often had tales of the ghost of Sho Lee, a young boy who died on the property after getting lost in the woods. Always good for a laugh and a midnight layer of goosebumps, I never truly believed in it. Until one night, all 6 of us playing basketball heard a weird squeaking noise coming from the far end of the court along the edge of the woods. We saw a bluish-gray figure, the size of a small boy, about 6 or 7, riding a tricycle along the tree line, completely ignoring us before disappearing into the woods. Thinking it was a neighboring kid, we ran to the edge of the court and called out, not daring to enter the woods. With no answer and no further evidence of anyone other than ourselves being there, we were convinced we had just seen the ghost of Sho Lee. A week later, I was in my basement bedroom sleeping when at 3 a.m. I felt my dog kicking in her sleep. I opened my eyes to see a young blonde boy about 6 with scratching my dog's head with his face pointed down. Jazzy, my dog, continued kicking as dogs do when you hit an itchy spot. The boy was a bluish-gray color, standing in the moonlight, spilling in from the glass block windows. I rubbed my eyes, thinking I was dreaming. I reopened my eyes, and he was still there, scratching away. I sat up, and to my relief, I thought, it's just my younger brother, also a blonde boy, aged 6. I called out, Nate? The boy stopped scratching my dog's head. She immediately fell still, and he slowly looked up. It was not Nate. He looked at me coldly, and in my head, I heard the phrase, only children can truly see. He slowly turned, and as he left the moonlit spot in my room, he completely disappeared. Still hoping it was my brother, I sprinted up the 2 flights of stairs only to find him sound asleep. And I never saw the boy again. Fast forward 15 years, I'm now 30 with a family of my own. I am the plant manager at the family business, and history repeats itself as I bring my 3-year-old son with me to work on off hours as often as I can. One such evening, my son asked me to get something out of the vending machine. We left my office to go to the plant floor. We walked through a small hallway leading to the main plant, lit only by the light of the vending machine. I put in a coin that was rejected by the machine, falling into the return slot in a pinging sound quite loud in contrast to the silence around us. My son quickly grabbed my pant leg and shushed me, saying, Daddy, be quiet. You'll wake the baseball player. Immediately freaked out, I whispered, What? He pointed into the dark abyss of the plant floor, looked up at me, and said, That man right there with the bat, he's sleeping. Don't wake him up. I saw and heard nothing. The words, only children can truly see, rang out again loudly in my ears. I grabbed my son, unfortunately snackless, locked all the doors behind us, quickly finished what I needed to in the office, and bolted. It has been a few months since this day without occurrence, but each sound when I'm alone in the building carries a little extra weight these days. Somewhere between a creeper and a peeper, Nick.
Good story, Nick. I like that story of like what he saw when he was a kid. Made him believe his son seeing things when he's a little kid, even though that he's no longer seeing them.
Yeah.
And just understanding that thing that a lot of people say where, kids are more susceptible to seeing things because they, don't have their defenses up and haven't become jaded and cynical and all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I thought that story was going to take a very different turn when you talked about when he was a little boy and it's 3 a.m. Or wait, he might not have been a little boy then. But I think it was 3 a.m., sees a little blonde boy. And then at first I think you said it differently. You said, with my dog's head, and then you corrected yourself.
Oh.
And I was like, where is this going? Like I was picturing a little ghost of a blonde haired boy with his Nick's dog's head.
Oh.
Like he's decapitated it.
Oh no. So sad for a second.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was like,
dear.
oh, okay.
I know, it goes to show like the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable will really take you down the wrong route.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Walken, are you ready for one more?
I think I can hear another story.
It's uncanny. It's uncanny.
I enjoy being scared sometimes. It's the craziest thing.
Okay, listen.
Yeah.
I need to record that voice and send it to Christopher Walken. How do we do that?
Oh my God. No, so many people have impersonated Christopher Walken. It's like one of the most impersonated people.
Really?
Oh yeah. He'll be like, okay. I've heard this a million times. You know who does a great Christopher Walken actually? I mean, he actually really is. I know not everybody loves him, even though he's pretty lovable. Jimmy Fallon, I think he became known as the guy who would like break character on SNL all the time.
Mm-hmm.
He's wildly talented, and he is a really good impressionist.
Okay, noted.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, let's go. Hey guys, Thomas here from Utah. Love the podcast and listen to it whenever I get the time.
Mm-hmm.
Love the podcast and listen to it whenever I get the time. And my oldest daughter and I love to sit out by the fire and try to get super duper scared.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's cute. Anyways, time now for the tale of Stefano Elefante.
Huh.
It all started about 5 years ago. I was working on the road, and on my way home, somewhere between here and there, at an old, crappy gas station, I saw a huge, pink, stuffed elephant for sale. I thought my oldest and only daughter at the time, who was 4, would love it. My girlfriend and I surprised her with this gift. She did not seem to love it, though. Actually, she dismissed it. We thought maybe it was all of the excitement of me being home, or maybe the fact that the elephant was as big as she was. When it came time for bed, we tucked our daughter into bed with her new stuffy, Stefano Elefante.
Oh.
About an hour later, she came into our room crying. She did not like Stefano. She said he was creepy. We tried to keep it light. We told her that he was going to be her new best friend. But then another hour passed when we heard her crying in her room softly. I went in to see what was wrong. She said she did not like Stefano, that he was still creepy, he was rude, he wouldn't go to sleep, and he was saying mean things to her. Though a little creeped out myself, I did the tough dad thing and I roughed up Stefano a bit, and then I stuffed him into the deepest corners of her closet. In February, the next year, my girlfriend and I moved in together. While packing, I came across Stefano. I recalled his first night in our home and decided I would throw him away. Although I don't specifically remember throwing Stefano away, I do remember putting him in a box labeled garbage, and I absolutely remember throwing out a lot of garbage boxes. However, when we unpacked, there he was. I guess maybe I didn't throw him away, I thought, or maybe I had put him in the wrong box. Nothing noteworthy happened for the next 6 months. My girlfriend became my fiance, and we moved into a house. It was a home with 3 floors and a weird little basement built in the early 70s. Not too old, plenty large enough for us, with a nice yard at a price we'd be crazy to turn down. We moved out of the apartment, and then we came across Stefano again. I decided we would for sure toss him out. Once again, I don't actually have a recollection of personally throwing him away, but I do remember putting him in a garbage can outside to be picked up on trash day. As we settled into our new home, we discovered we had some other roommates, some supernatural ones. The first few nights in the new house were the spookiest. While we were in the family room, the second to the lowest level in the house, we heard people walking around on the floor above us. We wrote it off as maybe the dog or the cat messing around, until we noticed the dog lying on the floor by us and the cat sitting at the bottom of the stairs looking up, focused on something like cats can only seem to do when you're already creeped out. And the footsteps continued. While we laid in bed on the top floor, it sounded like someone was walking up the stairs, down the hallway towards the bedroom, and then stopped outside our bedroom door. And then the footsteps turned around and went back the way they came. Soon after this, we saw them for the first time. Well, my fiance saw them. I was working as a building service director on the other side of the Salt Lake Valley and was called in late one night to repair a leak. My fiance was sitting in the bay window on the main floor when she saw our daughter at the top of the dark stairs. "Sarah, you know you need to be in bed," my fiance told her. Sarah backed up into the darkness until it absorbed her. My fiance ran up the stairs, ready to whoop some kiddo butt for creeping her out when she knew she was supposed to be in bed. But when she got to Sarah's bedroom, she saw her sleeping tightly in her little bed. It was obvious she had been sound asleep for quite some time. We agreed that we had at least one spooky roommate. She wasn't harmful or really even bothersome, so we didn't mind. We tried to pop around corners and leave on lights in hopes of seeing her again. A few weeks later, I was shutting the sliding glass door, and in the reflection, I saw what looked like an adult walk down the stairs and into the living room. Thinking it was my fiance, I began talking to her. When I received no response, I went into the living room to follow up, but no one was there. I found my fiance upstairs, sleeping. The footsteps continued. The slight feeling of someone standing by the bed while I slept was a new addition to the creepy happenings in our home. Occasionally, we'd see a shadow cross our door at night and go into Sarah's room. I figured it was just Emily, our resident ghost, going to play with some of Sarah's toys. We were planning our wedding during this time, and as this is so stressful, my fiance and I had a few arguments. One particular argument ended with me sleeping on the family room floor. Half asleep, I heard someone walk down the stairs in the night. I felt 2 feet, about an inch from my head, the way you can feel movement on really plushy carpet. I pulled the blanket off and said something asshole-ish like, "Came to apologize, huh?" But no one was there. During the Christmas holiday, my soon-to-be brother-in-law and his wife stayed with us. Refusing to sound like crazies, we did not tell them about our current house guest and waited to see if they noticed anything. And sure enough, the second morning, my future brother-in-law's wife came to us. She said, "Oh my God, the weirdest thing happened to me this morning. I walked up the stairs, and as I did, I swear I saw you, Thomas, sitting at the table. I said good morning, but as I came across the partition wall, there was no one sitting there anymore." The last few months, there have been a ton of activities in the house, knocking footsteps and so on. One of our nanny cams caught 2 orbs rushing across the room quickly. Unfortunately, the camera records in loop, and we didn't know that in time to pull the footage off and save it. And then, one night, our dog started losing his shit, barking and howling while he headed straight for Sarah's room. My fiance and I ran after him. Sarah was sitting up in bed. At the foot of her bed was our old friend, Stefano.
Oh my God.
"What the fuck?" I exclaimed. "I thought you threw him away," my fiance said. Me too," I replied. The dog wouldn't stop barking and growling at him. I put him in Sarah's closet, shut the door, settled the dog down, and went back to sleep. The next morning, I opened our bedroom door to find that creepy bastard Stefano sitting in the hallway. I immediately got in the car and donated him to the Salvation Army. Sounds messed up, but maybe if he had someone else to haunt, he would leave us alone. And he did. As I drove home, I called my fiance, calling her out on her funny little joke she had played on me with Stefano. She had no clue what I was talking about and assured me that she had no interest in touching that thing. That day, the ghosts all but stopped. No more knocking, no more footsteps, no more shadows out of the corner of our eyes. My wife and I had another little girl in June of last year. Every now and then, you'll hear her laughing when she's all alone. One time, Emily, our little ghost, actually brought her a balloon over from the other side of the room to comfort her while she was crying. I heard Penelope crying, and I peeked into her room, and then I watched as a balloon floated across the room towards her, and she began to giggle. There was no open window, the heat wasn't on, no explanation of how the balloon could have drifted across the room like that. Since getting rid of Stefano, other than a few innocent occurrences with Emily, the last few years have been really, really good. We think that the ghosts living here were a little upset by whatever spirit was in Stefano. Now that he's gone, we just kind of coexist with Emily and the other mischievous beings. Stay spooky, Thomas.
Thank you, Thomas. Stefano Elefanto, such a funny little name and such a naughty little entity.
Uh-huh.
and that little detail at the end, sometimes I will admittedly, I'm like, ooh, there are like some of the details from like people's true stories.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, ooh, I could use that in a fictional story.
Absolutely.
And
we're all inspired by life. You know?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and that thing of like the balloon.
The floating balloon.
Yeah, going across the room. Because it's such a distinct motion. I can just picture somebody with like a helium balloon tied to a little like, it's not a string. It's like a ribbon. Yeah, like a thin ribbon, walking across with it. And it kind of bobs as they walk. And just seeing that, but with no one there. Oh, man, that's something.
The way he was describing it, I was thinking about that, how when you walk across a room, the balloon is a little bit behind you, and the string,
a little bit,
or the ribbon or whatever is like, at an angle in front,
and it kind of like goes a little slack and then tightens, just because the nature of the helium and everything. Mm-hmm.
It's so specific.
Yep. And then what did I have? No, I think we got it all.
Okay.
I had some thoughts, but I think I wrote down early, but then it was answered later in the story.
Yeah. I thought Thomas did a great job of closing all the loops of like, okay, well, and I do appreciate that he says like, okay, I swear I threw it away, but like, okay, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe I forgot.
Yeah, it's like, we've all moved at least once or twice in our lives, and we know how chaotic and hectic it is, even when we're trying to be organized with like label, this is garbage, this is donation, this is, storage, whatever. It's like, okay, the first time, sure. But then the second time, I'm like, I don't know, that's too fucking much. Right. And then for that thing to show up what feels like, I don't know, a year later, it's the ending. It's Stefano Elefante showing up at the very end of like what, like, I know I took that mofo and I put him in a trash receptacle outside my house, rolled that out to the curb to be picked up, get the fuck out of here. How did it get back in my house?
Stefano needs to be burned. But I do understand the fear there.
Yeah.
Is that whatever is inside Stefano gets released, and I'd be worried that like, is it going to come into me now?
Yeah. So nobody go to a Salvation Army in the Salt Lake City area and buy a pink stuffy that's an elephant. And if you have done that, you need to get rid of it. I don't care if it's your kid's favorite thing and they're going to sob every night. Go
bury it. Bury it. Put it in a little metal box or something.
Yeah, I think you have to like contain it first.
Yeah, maybe you could put it like a little box that's locked, and then somebody put some kind of like charms on it, or I don't know.
Charms?
Sages it. I'm trying to think of like some kind of. I'm sure there's some kind of crystal that is. I know there is actually from doing like research for stories that it supposedly would like a protection field around the box. I don't know. I would do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Around the box after, and then buried as well.
I was so confused by charms. I thought you meant like decorate it.
No, I don't know. I was trying to think of. I don't know. The word escaped me.
That's okay. I was just picturing this really like bedazzled box.
Yeah.
It's like,
you put some glitter on it.
And I was like, okay.
Bunch of stickers and stuff, little jewels.
Well, maybe that would work. Maybe it would make it happier and lighter, and it would combat the darkness.
Yeah.
I can get behind
that. Who knows?
Who does know?
Who knows what's going on with these spirits? Do you want to thank some Annabelles?
I do. Thank you. I would like to thank the following Annabelles for their continued support on Patreon this month: Alicia Genoviak, Donna Diaz, Elizabeth McNamara, Bo Galetti, Audra Day, Dan Gordon, Brad Cooper. Oh, Brad, how much do you either love or hate being the other Bradley Cooper?
Oh, I didn't think of that. That's right, the actor.
That's got to be interesting. Isabella Hall, Beck Hooper, funny, Cooper and Hooper all in one, and Jenny Dugan.
Nice. And I would like to thank the following Annabelles as well for supporting us: David Holmes, Boston Grammy.
Cute.
Cute. Julian Drew, Another JC, Mark Corbelli, Scott Fendrick, Amy Arhart, Izzy the Frog, Matt Foraker, and Justin Smith.
Nice. And then I just have 2 spoopy shout outs this week.
Okay.
To Gabe, aka the Lord of the Ganja from Mufasa Chuckles and Juice.
Oh, man.
I know, this is great. Happy 21st birthday. We love your weirdness and everything that is you. Your 21st year will be magnificent. We love you.
Awesome. That's such a good birthday.
Yeah, it's so fun. To Erica, Crystal, Kirsty, and our mom, Marty from Cassandra. Erica, thanks for being on call to answer all of Mom's medical questions. Crystal, thanks for watching game shows and drinking coffee with Mom. I know she loved it. Kirsty, thanks for being so strong and a source of comfort. And Mom, wherever you are, thanks for always having our backs, for always being around to watch our favorite shows. You taught us to be kind and strong. We will forever miss you. And until we meet again.
Oh.
I know.
And that is our show. Thank you for continuing to send in your personal tales of terror to mystory@scaredtodeathpodcast.com. You can email us for everything else at info@scaredtodeathpodcast.com. Thank you to Logan Keith, scoring today's show. Thank you to Heather Rylander for organizing the My Story emails, and to book editor Drew Atana for polishing and preparing listener stories for book number 6. Thanks again, just like last week, to Molly Jean Box for finding the first story I shared, and Olivia Lee finding the second. We are on Facebook and Instagram, where we post pics that accompany the episodes and more at Scared to Death Podcast. We also have a private Facebook group, Creeps and Peepers, moderated by the All-Seeing Eyes, who are fantastic. Enjoy your nightmares, Creeps and Peepers. Hope you were scared to death.
Bye.
If spirits threaten me in this place, fight water by water and fire by fire. Banish their souls into nothingness and remove their powers until the last trace. Let these evil beings flee through time and space. Evil may pass through, but has no home here within, scared to death.
Mad Magic Productions.
I enjoy being scared sometimes. It's the craziest thing.